You're not lost. I know that sentence can sound too pretty for the size of the emptiness you sometimes feel. But stay with me for a few minutes, because what you call being lost might actually be a sign that you don't want to live the same way anymore. And that, even though it hurts, is a beginning. There's a kind of tiredness that isn't in the body, it's in the soul. The tiredness of waking up and performing and sleeping and repeating. The tiredness of doing what must be done without knowing why anymore. The tiredness of feeling time move forward and you move with it. Yet inside you don't feel like you're living. And then you ask yourself quietly, in the gaps of the day or in the middle of the night, when no one sees you, what am I doing with my life? Where am I going? What do I still want? Did I lose my purpose? Or did I never really have one? That question doesn't appear in the mind of someone who is superficially satisfied. It appears in the mind of someone who has matured enough to realize life is not only survival. So before anything else, let me tell you with respect, if you're feeling this, you're not broken, you're waking up. And waking up is not always comfortable. Sometimes waking up is realizing you spent too long on autopilot, living to please, to fulfill a role, to pay bills, to maintain an image, to not cause trouble, to not disappoint, to not fail. And when we live like that for too long, purpose doesn't vanish in one moment. It gets muffled like music turned low in a noisy room. You're still you, but you can't hear yourself. Today I want to offer you 10 Stoic reflections to find purpose again, not as a slogan, not as Monday motivation, but in a real, mature, applicable way. Reflections that don't depend on luck, don't depend on the world cooperating, don't depend on anyone giving you permission. They depend on you remembering where your center is, and from that center, reorganizing the meaning of your life. And if this touches you, right at the start, I'll ask you something simple that helps keep this message alive and reach more people. Subscribe to the channel, leave a like, comment below one word that describes what you feel today. Confused, tired, directionless, empty, restart, hope, and share this with someone you love who has been feeling lost. Because sometimes a person doesn't need a perfect plan. They need one sentence that helps them remember, I'm still here, I can still choose, I can still begin again. That's what we're going to do now. No rush, with truth. The first Stoic reflection, the most important for anyone who believes they're lost, is this: purpose is not a feeling. Purpose is a direction you choose. Many people wait to feel purpose in order to act, as if purpose were a constant emotion, a never-ending enthusiasm. But adult life doesn't work that way. Stoicism returns, a kind of maturity most people were never taught. You can feel no motivation and still live with meaning. You can wake up without energy and still have direction, because direction is commitment, not euphoria. When you think purpose is something you must feel all the time, you condemn yourself to instability. There will be days you feel it. There will be days you don't. And if you depend on feeling it, you freeze. Stoicism teaches you to measure life not by the mood of the day, but by the character of your choices. So if you feel lost, what might be missing isn't a great calling falling from the sky. It might be something simpler and deeper, a direction you choose, even without total certainty, a North Star you decide to follow, even while your mind says, I don't know. Here is a practical Stoic question you can ask today. What is the next dignified step I can take? Not the perfect step, not the final solution. The next dignified step. Purpose often doesn't appear as a full map. It appears as one small right action repeated over time. And when you take the small right action, you begin finding yourself again, because you stop living as if life must inspire you first, and you start living as the one who leads your life. The second Stoic reflection is liberation for anyone who feels lost. You don't control the plot, but you do control the protagonist. The feeling of being lost often comes from a broken fantasy. You had an image of how life should be, and life didn't follow the script. A relationship that didn't last, a career that didn't become what you expected, health that changed, money that didn't come, family that became complicated, a dream that didn't arrive when you thought it would, and you feel like you lost the path. But many times what you lost was a plot, an expectation, and an expectation is not destiny. Stoicism reminds you, destiny is what you do with what happens. You may not control the plot, but you control the protagonist, and the protagonist is not your image. The protagonist is your conscience, your character, your ability to act with virtue even when the world doesn't make it easy. So if the plot changed, it doesn't mean you're lost. It means you need to update your posture. Life took away a plan, but it didn't take your ability to walk. Here is a sentence that changes everything if you carry it. This happened. Now I choose who I will be in front of it. When you repeat that sincerely, You return to your center. You stop living inside why me and step into what to eat now, with dignity. That second question is where purpose is reborn. Purpose is not a place you arrive. It's a way you move through. The third Stoic reflection is an antidote to emptiness. What you're missing is often not purpose, it's presence. Feeling lost usually comes with a mind that lives outside the now. You're either in the past replaying, blaming, comparing, regretting, or you're in the future predicting, fearing, trying to control. And when you're not in the present, you don't feel meaning because meaning is lived, not merely understood. You don't find purpose in the past. You find lessons. You don't find purpose in the future. You find intention. Purpose happens in the present, in the act of being fully there, while doing what needs to be done. This is deeply Stoic, returning to what is under your command now. When you are present, even a simple task gains dignity. Even an ordinary day gains the weight of life. And when you are absent, even victories feel hollow. So if you feel lost, you may have been outside yourself for too long. The return starts humbly, paying attention to your body, your breath, what you're doing, what you're thinking, how you're treating yourself internally. Presence isn't a technique, it's a vow. It's you saying, I come back. Many people are not lost because there is no path, but because they are not truly here. They are only functioning. And when you come back, you begin noticing what was invisible, what nourishes you, what drains you, what you tolerate and shouldn't, what you postpone and must face, what you feel and never name. Presence is the ground where purpose rebuilds itself. The fourth Stoic reflection touches something that hurts but heals. You're not lost. You're in transition. The human mind likes stability. Labels, I am this, I am that. But life is movement. And sometimes life dismantles an old identity. You might have been the strong one, the responsible one, the provider, the one who fixes everything, the one who never fails, the one who can take it. And one day you realize you're tired of being that person, not because it's bad, but because it became a prison. You carried too much. You erased yourself to play a role. You lived to meet expectations. And when that breaks, you call it being lost. But often it's a necessary misfit, a shedding of skin, a transition into maturity. Stoicism teaches you not to panic in the middle of transition. Transition feels like emptiness, but it is space, and space is where the new is born. If you rush to fill that space with anything, you return to autopilot, distraction, numbness. But if you can hold the space with courage, it becomes clarity. You start realizing, I don't want this anymore. I won't accept that anymore. I will not keep betraying myself. That is purpose forming, because purpose isn't only what do I want to achieve, purpose is also what living. The moment you define what you will no longer tolerate, you begin orienting yourself. You regain posture. You regain direction. The fifth Stoic reflection is one of the strongest. For anyone without a compass, your purpose is to live according to your noblest nature. Stoicism doesn't ask you to invent meaning out of thin air. It asks you to live by human virtues, wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance. Notice how freeing this is. You can live with purpose in any circumstance, because virtue doesn't depend on the world. You can have an ordinary job and still live with justice. You can be in a hard season and still live with courage. You can be confused and still seek wisdom. You can face temptation and still practice temperance, self-control. When you understand this, purpose stops being a distant destination and becomes a way of being. You don't need to discover one great calling before you begin living with meaning. You begin by living with virtue today, in what is in front of you, and this changes everything. Because many people feel lost, because they think purpose is an external achievement. For the Stoic, purpose is an inner commitment, a way of steering life. Here's a simple question. If you had to choose one virtue to guide the next 30 days, what would it be? Patience, courage, self-control, honesty, justice, firm kindness. The act of choosing one virtue creates an axis, and someone with an axis even in transition is not lost. They are building. The sixth Stoic reflection rescues you from comparison. You don't need the world's approval to have purpose. Comparison is a quiet poison. You look at other people's lives and think you're behind, that you failed, that you wasted time. You see someone arriving and feel like you never arrived. And without noticing, you start measuring your life by someone else's ruler. That kills purpose, because purpose is intimate. It's about values, not applause. Stoicism reminds you, other people's opinions are not your home. They change, they swing, they're filtered, they're limited. If you place your worth there, you live unstable, and purpose requires stability. It requires inner ground. So if you feel lost, ask with courage, am I living to be seen, or living to be true. Many people lose themselves trying to maintain an image, trying to look okay, trying not to fail, trying to be what others expect. And when you live to be seen, you drift away from yourself. Life becomes performance, and performance, over time, becomes emptiness. Stoicism calls you back. I am guided by conscience. That doesn't mean ignoring feedback or becoming arrogant. It means you don't abandon yourself to fit. And when you stop abandoning yourself, you start feeling purpose again because integrity returns. Integrity is the alignment between what you believe and what you do. That alignment creates a peace comparison never will. The seventh Stoic reflection is for the feeling of I don't know what to do. Purpose is born when you take responsibility for what is yours. Many people confuse responsibility with guilt. Guilt is beating yourself for the past. Responsibility is taking your place in the present. It is saying, I can't control everything, but I can control something, and that something is enough to begin. When you take responsibility, you stop waiting for someone to save you. You stop waiting for life to organize itself. You stop waiting for perfect inspiration. You begin acting in a minimal but consistent way, and consistency creates a path. Stoicism reminds you that life is built from small repeated choices. You want purpose? Then stop negotiating with your own conscience. Stop postponing what you already know you must do. Because many times, the feeling of being lost is the pain of betraying yourself. You know what you should do in some area and you don't. You know what you should cut and you don't. You know what you should begin and you don't. That creates an inner fracture. You lose self-respect. And when self-respect disappears, direction disappears. So here is a Stoic question, simple and strong. What am I delaying that if I did it would return my respect for myself? Maybe it's health. Maybe it's finances. Maybe it's apologizing. Maybe it's setting a boundary. Maybe it's leaving something that poisons you. Maybe it's starting something small. Whatever it is, when you do it, you respect yourself again. And self-respect is the soil of purpose. The eighth Stoic reflection is one of the most beautiful for emptiness. Your purpose can be to serve the good without erasing yourself. Stoicism is profoundly communal. It reminds you that you are part of something bigger. You are not an island. Life gains meaning when you contribute to something beyond the ego. But when people hear serve, they often imagine carrying the world, sacrificing themselves, disappearing. That's not it. Serving here means acting with humanity, doing the good that is possible within your reach, being a better presence where you are, improving the atmosphere instead of poisoning it, being just with those who depend on you, being kind without being weak, offering a word that lifts someone, refusing to spread venom, refusing to unload your pain on innocent people. And notice, this gives purpose because it pulls you out of the trap of me. Emptiness is often ego trapped inside itself. When you move toward the good, meaning returns because life begins circulating again. You stop being stagnant water and become a river. And it doesn't need to be grand. It can be a daily choice. The way you treat someone in your home, the way you respond to the world, that restores purpose because it restores human meaning, which is always deeper than status. The ninth Stoic reflection is for the pain of I wasted time. There is still time to live with dignity. Maybe you look back and think, I should have started earlier. I should have done it differently. I lost years. That pain is real, but it can become a prison or it can become fuel. Stoicism doesn't deny the past, but it refuses to live there. It reminds you that time doesn't return. And for that reason, the time that remains must be used with more awareness, not with guilt, but with respect. If you feel lost, you might be punishing yourself for old choices, but self-punishment doesn't create a path. It creates paralysis. Stoicism offers a mature way out. Let the awareness of time become an alarm clock, not a whip. You can't change what you did, but you can change what you do now. That's not a cliche. That's the only reality. The only life you truly have is this one, here. And if he 40, 50, 60, 70 what remains can be lived, is a quality who haven't lived yet. Sometimes purpose appears the moment you decide to stop wasting. Stop wasting on useless fights, on resentment, on comparison, on fear, on endless distraction. That decision is a turning point. You start choosing better. You start saying no to what steals you. You start saying yes to what builds you. And little by little you realize, I'm not too late to live with dignity. I wasn't late, I was asleep. Waking up now is victory. The 10th Stoic reflection is the synthesis of all the others. You're not lost because you can still choose your character now. And that is the most reliable purpose there is. Everything can change, but character goes with you. The Stoic understands life is unstable, so they build stability in the only place it can be built, within. Stoicism doesn't promise the world will be fair. It promises you can be fair. It doesn't promise you'll never suffer. It promises you can move through without losing yourself. It doesn't promise you'll never fall. It promises you can rise with dignity. That is purpose. Purpose is not a life without pain. Purpose is a life with direction inside the pain. And for Stoics, that direction has a name: virtue. Wisdom to see clearly. Courage to act, even with fear. Temperance, so you are not enslaved by impulse. Justice, so you don't become unjust because you were hurt. When you live like that, you don't need to find purpose like an object. You build purpose like a house brick by brick, choice by choice, and over chimney that harms meaning. Now notice, these 10 reflections are not here for you to admire. They're here for you to use when the emptiness hits, when you wake up and feel you don't know where you're going. Return to, what depends on me today? When life leaves the script, return to, I don't control the plot, but I control the protagonist. When comparison rises, return to, I'm guided by conscience, not applause. When you feel frozen, return to, what is the next dignified step? When you feel you wasted time, return to, there is still time to live with dignity. And when you feel lost, return to the core truth. I can choose now. Choice gives you ground. Ground gives you direction. Let me leave you with an image you can carry on hard days. Imagine there is a room inside you. And in that room, there is a chair. That chair is your center. When you feel lost, it's because you left the chair. You let fear sit there, or guilt, or comparison, or hurry, or resentment. And when those sit there, they govern your day. Stoic practice is you coming back and sitting down again, not kicking emotions. Out of the room emotions will come. You're human, but they don't need to govern. You can listen, you can hold them, and still decide. You return to the chair with one slower breath. You return with one inner sentence, I am here. You return with one small choice, and that repeated rebuilds purpose, because purpose is presence with direction. And maybe you're thinking, but I don't know what my purpose is. Here's something honest. Maybe you don't need to know the purpose, as if it were only one thing. Maybe you need to find principles. Again, and principles will guide you. Sometimes purpose changes across life. What doesn't change is the human need to live with meaning. And meaning doesn't have to be a grand mission. Meaning can be taking better care of yourself, being a better presence for someone, living with more truth, stopping self-betrayal, building stability, healing a wound, simplifying, living with virtue. If you do that, you'll notice something. Purpose wasn't far away. It was buried, and you begin to uncover it. I want to speak to you, who have lived enough to know life isn't simple, who carry responsibilities, stories, scars. Stoicism doesn't infantilize you. It doesn't promise miracles. It promises something better. Sovereignty. The feeling of being lost is often the feeling of losing, sovereign to losing in a government. Finding purpose again begins with finding government again over your attention, your inner language, your choices, your boundaries, what you feed your mind. Yes, you can be lost by what you consume: too much news, too much comparison, too much stimulation, too much noise. The world offers emotional food constantly, and not all of it nourishes you. Some of it intoxicates you. So if you want purpose again, you may need to become selective. Protect your mind, create silence, return to the essential. I have a life, of time, of character, of choices. That is enough to begin. Maybe right now, you're in a season where everything feels colorless. Nothing excites you. Everything feels like obligation. That can have many causes: exhaustion, anxiety, sadness, grief, burnout, disappointment. I won't reduce that to cheap philosophy, but I will tell you something Stoicism teaches with sobriety. You don't have to wait until you feel ready to begin rebuilding. You begin with what you have. You begin small, one thing at a time. You begin by caring for the body. Sleep a little better if you can. Eat with more care if you can. Walk if you can. Reduce noise if you can. Ask for help if you need it. You begin by caring for the mind, refusing to feed thoughts that destroy you. You begin by caring for character, choosing the next dignified step. That series of small yes to yourself rebuilds purpose, because it rebuilds trust. And trust is the bridge between I don't know and I'm walking. Being lost is not a permanent identity. It's a temporary state when you disconnect from yourself. And reconnection doesn't happen in one instant of illumination. It happens in returns. You drift, you return. You drift, you return. You drift, you return. And every return makes you stronger, wiser, over time. Loss stops being who you are and becomes just a moment you move through with maturity. So I want to offer you one simple commitment, nothing dramatic, something that fits real life. Starting today, when the sentence, I'm lost, rises inside you, replace it with a more stoic, Modi truthful. More powerful sentence. I'm on my way back. Notice the difference. Lost sounds like an ending. On my way back sounds like a process. A process is movement. Movement has hope. Then ask, what is the next dignified step that brings me back? Sometimes it's rest. Sometimes organization. Sometimes forgiveness. Sometimes a conversation. Sometimes closing a chapter. Sometimes starting something small. Whatever it is, don't stay trapped inside the label. Walk. And I'll end by returning to the center, gently, like holding your hand from the inside. You're not lost. You're human. You're moving through something. And the fact that you're searching for purpose is proof that purpose is still alive inside you. Because someone who has nothing left doesn't search. The one who searches still has flame, conscience, dignity, a part of themselves that wants to return. Honor that not with panic, but with respect. Stoicism teaches you how to honor it without spectacle, one dignified step at a time, one return at a time, one virtue at a time, and sooner than you expect. You won't find purpose like a lost object you'll realize. It returned because you returned. Because in the end, finding purpose, again, isn't about finding something outside. It's about finding you again, and you are still here whole enough to choose. And choosing is the beginning of everything. If this spoke to you, comment below. I am not lost. Write it as a reminder to your own mind, and share it with someone who needs to hear it today, because the world might not change because of one sentence, but a life can change. When the heart remembers, it can begin again.